It was 4-1, Dave. 4-1, and this time it was the Maple Leafs coming back to get the victory. They're now one game away from round number 2. Let's break it all down on today's edition of Locked On Leafs.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the April 25th edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother from TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me, it's my co-host, Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also a writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs is a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcast from. You can also catch us up on YouTube. We got 5 videos coming out each week, every morning, Monday through Friday. So make sure that you are subscribed and get that content. Download the Game Time app. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Dave, we got to witness it together in person, my friend.
Yeah, it was kind of a bit, not last minute. We were kind of planning this a little bit.
Yep. And I'm glad we did, dude. Like, we got to witness the Maple Leafs, like, legitimately exercise their demons. I mean, it was 4-1 has been such a phrase that has haunted Leaf fans forever. And tonight, they were down 4-1 with less than 10 minutes to go in the game. And they're the ones who forced the Tampa Bay Lightning to collapse. They're the ones that came back in that game, scored 3 goals in 6 minutes and 20 seconds, took this thing to overtime, and not just came close, right? Last year was all about coming close. They're right there, right there. They bursted through the door, and they got the game winner, Alex Kerfoot, with a great tip, and they actually won the freaking game, Dave.
Never in doubt. Never in doubt.
Oh, yeah. That was in doubt after a terrible 20 minutes of play. Never in doubt, though.
Never.
They were taking a page out of the Edmonton Oilers playbook. Right?
Yeah.
Terrible first period, and then, allow the opposition to think that they're going to win the game, and then just chip away and end up winning that thing in overtime 5-4. It's literally exactly what Edmonton did the night before.
Yeah, I mean, Edmonton did turn things around in the second period. Of course, Edmonton get a little bit of power play help in that second period to kind of get them there. But the Leafs, what they did was they didn't just bury their heads and say, you know what, we're going to focus on to Game 5. No, because you know what? In the playoffs, they realize you can't just wait for the next opportunity. You got to try to get those opportunities when they're right in front of you. And they didn't give up. They didn't give up. That's a big plus for this group.
It is. And for me, it was honestly one of those games, and it was one of those moments like where they tied it and then actually won the game. It's like, this is another one of those this year feels different moments. Like the Leafs typically are on the other end of the collapse. And this year, they weren't. We thought that it was special to come back in that game on Saturday in Game 3, but then to do it here, so reminiscent of the collapse of Game 7, realistically. If you think back to 2013, it wasn't in a Game 7, which is why it's not as bad for Tampa. But to go into Amalie Arena, a place where Tampa Bay has been really good and almost unbeatable over the course of this last 3-year run that they've had and just running roughshod on the NHL. And for them to go in there and take 2, not 1 but 2, I think is just absolutely incredible. And now they head to Toronto with a 3-1 lead and a chance to 3 cracks at it, really, to advance into round 2.
Yeah, especially, when all of a sudden it's the Alex Killorn game for Tampa. And you just got beat by Alex Killorn, man. It's just one of those games. And then they just decided, you know what? Let's not let Alex Killorn be the story of this game. Let's change the narrative in some way. And in a lot of ways, I was, when we were going through everything, it's like you're breaking down walls with each victory, right?
Yeah.
Unable to get that overtime win, that one's gone. Unable to have a comeback. We saw the stat when the Leafs were trailing. They only had 1 win when they were losing in the playoffs, and the stats, it's just every single game we're starting to see a wall being broken down by this Leafs team.
And now, not to look ahead because we still got so much to break down from this game, but now is probably the final buzzword key phrase that need to get checked off? Do they have the killer instinct, Dave? They got a team on the ropes up 3-1. Can they put them away? And not just any team, the 3-time Eastern Conference champions. Like, can they put them away? That's going to be the goal come, what do they play, Thursday, I believe? So they get a couple nights off, so they'll play Thursday. And can they put them away, right? That's the only thing at this point that I think is being left unchecked. But, like, let's not sit here and think that the Maple Leafs, although they're up 3-1, like, they're very lucky to be up 3-1. I wouldn't say that this game tonight was a spectacular game. Like, that first period was brutal again. A tough start. Samsonov allowed a couple of goals. And when they made it 4-1, Killorn, ripped that one off the post and in towards the end of the second period. I was counting the Leafs out. I thought they were done, to be honest with you. And then Auston Matthews finally arrived. Right, the Auston Matthews that we've been waiting for. He's been good in this series, but he hasn't put the team on his back and been the guy. He hasn't been a difference maker. Tonight he was. 2 big-time goals to get this Leafs team back into it when they're seemingly down and out. It was 4-1 with less than 10 minutes to go, and he's able to score not once but twice in just a few minutes to really give this team life and jumpstart that comeback.
The big one for me is there's that, I think it was in the second period while Auston Matthews is in the offensive zone. He's got daylight in front of him, and he decides to pass it off to Mark Giordano at the point, and then nothing comes about it.
You didn't like that, huh?
Did not appreciate that from Auston Matthews. Auston Matthews is a guy that when the puck is on his stick, he's got to be the one to take those, got to rip it there. And it's changed in that third period, right? He didn't have to do a lot, right? He got the great feed for the first goal that he scored, and then the great tip on the power play. It's great when you can see your superstar players just with the snap of a finger just change the game, right? And I think in the intermission, Elliot Friedman was kind of saying it's got to be the core guys that pull. If the Leafs want any chance, it's the core guys that got to pull them out of it. Matthews scores twice. Rielly again playing, the hero.
Unbelievable.
We just don't, it's great to see that Morgan Rielly is finding that shot. And it's also the respect now you're seeing Tampa give to him that they weren't doing early in the series. Again, late in that third period, Killorn is right up in Rielly's face as soon as he has the puck on his stick. That's respect that Morgan Rielly was not getting earlier in this series or even during the season.
Well, I'll say this. Up until about midway through the third, Tampa did a really good job of shutting down Toronto's offense. They were suffocating the neutral zone. They weren't allowing Toronto to dump the puck in and retrieve anything. They couldn't get anything going, and then, something clicked. Sheldon Keefe kind of switched up the lines there, in the middle of the second period, and things started to open up for them, and more so especially in the third where they finally, got loose, got a little bit of space, and were able to get some shots off. But it's interesting that you look at, the goals that we're seeing go past Vasilevsky this season, and it's not what you would anticipate. Like, when you think of playoff goals, you think about goals that are in tight, goals that are scored, right on top of the goalie, off a rebound. That's typically how playoff goals are scored, garbage ones. That's not really what we're seeing from Toronto. Now, they're not all lasers and they're not all beautiful shots. Matthews did have a really nice shot at, this in this game. But then you think back to the other goals, right? Like Morgan Rielly from the point, traffic in front, right? Yeah. So I think there's 2 things that the Maple Leafs have really been doing well that is resulting in them being able to find offense. Because this is now, you look at it, through 4 games, they've got 19 goals on Andrei Vasilevsky. Andrei Vasilevsky, Dave. Like, that's not something that happens ever, man. Like, they found a recipe for success. And like I said, it's 2 things. They're getting bodies in front of him, so they're taking away his sight lines, and he's not seeing these pucks. And by also getting bodies in front of them, they're able to get sticks on these pucks, and they're redirecting them. There was a really interesting quote from Derek Lalonde, who's doing a pretty good job on the Sportsnet coverage, and he had a quote, and keep in mind, Derek Lalonde was the Lightning assistant coach for the last 3 seasons, knows his team. Actually, I think more than that, but he was with them for a while with those Cups, and he knows his team very well. He's now the head coach of the Detroit Red Wings, but he's doing some for whatever reason, doing some media work in the offseason. But he came out and he said the Lightning staff did a study back in the day. Vasilevsky was actually one of the lower percentage goalies in finding pucks from the point, We actually changed our entire D zone. It improved our pass rush. So why are these goals going in from so far out, and why are the Leafs taking so many shots from the point, and why are they getting all these high tips and finding success? Well, that's the book on Andrei Vasilevsky. And it's crazy that they've actually found what the book is, that it's taken teams so long to figure that out. But 19 goals in 4 games, man, that says something.
Yeah, and credit to Sheldon Keefe and the coaching staff for realizing that, right? Like, we've given Sheldon Keefe a lot of grief of how he's been outcoached in a lot of times during the playoffs, and they clearly did their homework, right? That's what the scouts are for. That's what the video coaches are for. They're looking for those weaknesses and the holes in Vasilevsky's game, and we just said there aren't many, but now you're starting to see a trend when it comes to how they're allowing those goals, right? So Tampa's done such a good job, especially in front of the net, clogging up the middle of the ice there. The Leafs, and we were saying how many shots the Leafs were taking from the point during the game. That's because the Leafs truly believe that those chances are a higher percentage, just because that those shots are available for them, and they're going to try their best to get those opportunities. Auston Matthews, 2 of the 3 goals we've seen him score in the last couple of games have been tips in front of the net.
Dude, the game winner, right? Alex Kerfoot, a beautiful tip, and just unable to react to it quick enough was Vasilevsky, and ends up in the back of the net, and Toronto's up 3-1. Heading into Game 5, a chance to win this thing in 5 games, a chance to go through in round 2. Like, I can't even imagine if they come back to Toronto and actually win this thing in 5, what type of scene we'll see in that building and outside of the building, the subways. Like you were saying, you were texting a buddy, and apparently the subways are just insane right now. Just people partying, just having a good time.
And we're not even at that point where the Leafs have won.
That was Game 3. They won a third. They need to win 4 to win the series, and they're partying after 3. Like, it's gonna be wild, man. I mean, it's been so long since this team has had any amount of success that what they're doing right now, like, it just really does feel like this is the year, that this is the season that they finally burst through. And then once they get through that one round, once they get over that hurdle, man, who knows how far this club could go. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's continue to break down this game. We got our 3 stars that we got to get to, and then we also got to chat a little bit about Game 5 and one of the big decisions that loom for Sheldon Keefe. So we'll get into all that and more on the other side. But first, Dave, a word from one of our show sponsors. It's our good friends at Indeed.
Yep. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talented roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching assessments and virtual interviews. Hate waiting. Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match their job descriptions the moment they sponsor a job. Candidates you invite on Indeed to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who are only seen in search, according to the U.S. Indeed data. Indeed does the hard work hiring for you. Sponsor a job, and they'll match you with a quality candidate whose resume on Indeed fit your job description right when you post. With Indeed, you can start hiring fast. Join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application price is not available for everyone. You need to hire? You need Indeed.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and my good friend Dave Morassutti. We got to watch the game together, and what a game it was. I mean, through 20 minutes of play, we weren't exactly thrilled with the performance, obviously. And then, after the next 20, even still, down 4-1, it was even worse. And you're thinking, you know what, they're playing a little bit better, but still, 4-1 against that team, like, that just does not happen. Like I saw the Lightning, when they lead going into the third period, this in the regular season, they were like 28-1-2. So it was probably going to be unlikely that this team is going to be able to beat them again after doing it in Game 3 in comeback fashion. But the fact that they were able to pull it off was pretty darn impressive. What else stuck out to you about tonight's performance?
Yeah, I mean, there was quite a bit. Like the changing of the lines, I felt like was needed. I was saying Tavares and Nylander couldn't play together in that, especially in the defensive zone.
And they were on the ice again for another goal at 5-on-5. I that's now what six goals that they've been on the ice at 5-on-5 in this series. It is a little bit of a liability. So good on Sheldon Keefe to realize like, hey, we got to switch something up here, and it worked.
Yeah, not only that, but we going into the game, we thought that wasn't even going to be a possibility because talking about Marner and Matthews being split up, and they were for a bit. I know for the first goal, technically Marner was the one that fed Auston Matthews the puck on the goal there, but yeah, you just felt like something need to change because the big boys, when they're not performing, it's because Sheldon Keefe hasn't really been willing to make those changes. But I think the other important thing was that Matthew Knies, again, goes and gets himself bumped up in the lineup, and Sheldon Keefe clearly trusts him to play a lot more, especially late in the game there.
I think what gets lost just because you look at the game and there's so much offensively brilliant things that we talk about for them to get back into it, tie the game, and ultimately win it in overtime. But that game probably doesn't get to overtime if Matthew Knies doesn't swipe that puck off the goal line, right? Like, if that's another goal that Tampa's able to get there, was that in the second period, I want to say? First or second period. It was pretty early in the game. If that's a goal that stands, like, I mean, that would have been a back-breaking one for them to try and come back from, too. That's just another one that Tampa is able to get. Now, again, you could obviously sit here and say that the game probably would have unfolded differently if that goal would have counted and whatever. I get it, alternate universe type stuff, but still, an unbelievable heads up play from a kid who literally is playing his sixth professional hockey game, and with him in the lineup, the Leafs are now 6-0. Dave, 6-0, and Matthew Knies is in the lineup.
With that, and it's funny because when we were going into this series, you weren't sure if this kid could do things in the defensive zone, and then he saves the puck right there. Now, has he been perfect through 6 games? No. I mean, there's been a lot of good. There's been some nervous moments. They bring it up on the broadcast, just him dealing with NHL bodies, right?
Yeah.
Guys who are going to outmuscle him for pucks, beat him for those pucks. He's got to work on that a little bit, but he's still making more positive plays. And again, we were thinking that the moment might have been too big for him, but even if he's not scoring, and I understand he hasn't scored yet, he's still having positive contributions most of the time that he's on the ice.
Yeah, 100%. So definitely shout out to Matthew Knies. Definitely had himself a pretty good game. But I just want to just look at the simple box score, and this isn't something you typically see out of Toronto, but led in shots, 37-31. Their power play was 50%. They took less penalties than the Tampa Bay Lightning. They had more hits than the Tampa Bay Lightning. They had more blocks than the Tampa Bay Lightning and less giveaways than the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Which, when you watch the way that game was going, I would not have thought the Leafs would have been leading in a lot of those stats. Shots, giveaways. I don't know how the face-off percentage was, but I think Tampa
50%, 50-50.
Wow, because it was looking like Tampa was taking control there early in the game too. It's really, again, the Leafs finding a way just to change things up, play with a little more desperation, right? Tampa was playing quite, I wouldn't say desperate. They were pressuring. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know if Tampa can sustain this for the whole game. At some point, the Leafs are going to try to flip the switch. And if they catch Tampa gas and just not able to keep up with their pace, I think that's what happened. That's what turned the game around. Tampa they were playing at such a high level, hoping that they can get a lead and just hold on. And Leafs just found a way to flip the switch and keep the pace and keep the pressure going right till the end. And that's usually not something you see. I think Tampa maybe just thought the Leafs would revert back to their old ways. This is not the same Leafs team. Too many guys that are just finding ways to get things done.
One guy who's really impressed me so far through these playoffs, and he had his presence was felt tonight physically once again, was Luke Schenn. I mean, just the game that he had in Game 3, just in terms of being one of the better defensive through the first 3 games, but then also, taking those chirps, being, that great veteran to kind of shield that young team. And then to go out tonight, right, played 18 minutes of ice time, 10 hits. This guy dished out 10 hits tonight. You love to see it out of old Luke Schenn coming back to Toronto, and he's been a big time contributor on the back end, really, through these 4 games. Like, I've been thoroughly impressed with the way that guy's played.
I mean, yeah, it's especially with Brandon Hagel trying to get into his grill and trying to make it seem like Luke Schenn is a nobody on the Leafs.
I don't think that's the case.
I don't think that's the case anymore. No. We were concerned about that Rielly Schenn pairing. Right?
Question. I don't know if you saw this, but apparently, so you heard Brandon Hagel saying, like, you stink, like, you're more relevant than Pat Maroon. I did see a report that there was an extra chirp from Schenn to was it Hagel? No, to Jeannot, actually. It wasn't to Hagel. To Jeannot, and it was something to the effect of, at least that was worth the trade return.
I heard about something. I my buddy made the chirp as soon as he saw the Hagel thing. He's like, at least I'm worth the trade.
Yeah, something like that. Oh, what a chirp by Luke Schenn.
Yeah,
you guys been great, man.
It's that type of character you need in the playoffs, right? Like,
yeah.
Let Luke Schenn deal with that stuff.
You know what? That's an important word too. I think character, because tonight was a character win. Yeah. I would say for sure. Game 3, another character win, and character was probably something that was missing with this team. I mean, they had all the skill in the world to put on a show every now and then, but the playoffs, that's not what it's all about. It's all about showing good character and mucking things up when things get tight. And you look at the players that they've brought in, they're all character guys. They're all dudes who play with a high level of intensity. They all play hard, they're competitive, they're physical. And it's exactly what this team's been missing, honestly, because that's been almost a world of difference between what we saw happen last year in round 1, the year before that, the year before that, the year before that, and what we're seeing this year in round 1. Yeah. Like, they've gone up 3-1 in series before, but and it's not even that they've played amazing. It's just, you just have belief because, they've been able to come up big in those critical times. And I think that's sometimes what it takes to win a championship. It's not necessarily that you got to be pillar to post the best team in the game every single night. You just got to come up big in those certain moments, and the Leafs have really done that these last 2 games.
I think the big one too is all those times the Leafs have been up in the series, they've been playing. It's been easy for them. They haven't really faced that adversity or just the other team finding a way to just flip the switch, right? Tampa's been throwing their best at Toronto the last 2 games. I haven't been able to find a way to get the win for Tampa. That must be a little demoralizing for Tampa. You have to think.
So actually, this is a good time for us to break, because I was going to ask you a question about one of the Leafs' better players, but I imagine that'll come up when we get to our 3 stars of the game. I would imagine there's one guy in particular who is rather stellar, who I know made my 3 stars, and, you'd be a fool if he didn't make your 3 stars as well. So I'll save that one for after the break. But before we get to any of that, Dave, let me tell you guys about one of our show sponsors today, and that's our good pals at Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all these sports, music, comedy, whatever event you want. With killer deals on last-minute tickets, they're the best price guarantee, and you could stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun event that you plan on going to. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, hockey, concerts, baseball, whatever you want. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will actually credit you 110% of the difference, and tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you'll never have to dig through your emails. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano. I've got Dave Morassutti. We are in my apartment where we got to witness this game. And it was a good one, dude. They were able to come back and win this game. It was 4-1. It was 4-1.
4-1, man.
And it ended 5-4. And the Maple Leafs had 5. And the Tampa Bay Lightning had 4. Who are the 3 stars in this game, Dave? Let's start with the third star, as per usual.
Third star, it's going to be the order of trying to get this right here for me. I'm going to go with Morgan Rielly first. You know, getting the tying goal. He made, and we saw it a few times, making big stops when the Leafs are on the power play and gave up those odd man rushes.
Yeah, the back checks, the little stick plays.
Yeah, a couple of those were huge. Obviously a lot of people were upset about the Alex Killorn penalty shot. The Hagel penalty shot earlier in the game where Morgan Rielly didn't make a great play and he had to take the penalty there.
Samsonov came up big.
Yeah.
This might be the first time we've mentioned Samsonov's name in the entire podcast.
Yeah. I mean, this was a game where, Samsonov didn't have his best start, but he settled in. As soon as he settled in, it took him 4 goals to settle in a little bit there, but eventually he kept the Leafs, especially in those late moments there. But I thought Morgan Rielly, he continues to show why he is the most important defenseman on this Leafs team, because there's been some defensemen that haven't been up to snuff themselves, and they've needed Morgan Rielly. Imagine if Morgan Rielly was still dealing with a lot of those struggles from the regular season.
Oh man, if that was the case, Game 2 probably would not have gone as swimmingly as it did. Game 3 probably wouldn't have scored the game winner, and then, I mean, tonight tied the game to bring it to overtime. Like, he's been a part of, and a big part of, all 3 of this team's victories here in the postseason. And now he's got that big old shiner. He just looks like he's playing playoff hockey. Yeah. Looks awesome, if you ask me.
It suits him quite well.
It really, really does. I've got the power play as my third star of the night. They end up scoring twice on the power play tonight, and obviously, the game winner ends up being on the man advantage, and this time it was PP2 who gets it done, right? They don't get a lot of opportunity just because, the first unit tends to take up all of the time, or at least, 80% of the time when they're out there, and so they didn't score on their go-around, and the second unit gets out there, and all of a sudden they're able to make something happen, a shot from the point, high tip, and Kerfoot gets a piece of it, and it goes into the back of the net, and you're celebrating. So the power play for me, and the reason why I think it's so notable is just because how piss poor this power play has been in the last 3 years. I think it's 14% power play the last 3 years combined. Like, it's just so gross, and now it's up over 30% in this series. It's been everything for the Maple Leafs. This power play has been massive for them.
It just, you hear all about, the power play was supposed to be the Leafs' weapon. I'm trying to remember that quote that Sheldon Key that was brought up about what, they'll take the power plays because the power play is their thing. It's their weapon. It's their difference maker in a lot of ways, and it hasn't been in the playoffs. Special teams, if you're special teams,
their strength is in their power play or something like that. Had to do with physicality and them show. Yeah, I remember that quote.
I'll have to remember who said it, but it was this was what the power play was supposed to be all those years, and you're seeing
the toughness. Was it our toughness is in our power play?
Yeah, our power play is our toughness.
It was Keefe who said that.
It was Keefe who said that. So, yeah, and he's right. This power play should be much better than it has. I think they've even left opportunities on the table in a lot of ways.
Yeah, a couple of them have been stinkers. Don't get me wrong. But when you're operating, I mean, at a 35 to 40% clip,
pretty good.
There's a reason why you're up 3-1 in the series, right? 5-on-5, it's been pretty even. I would say Tampa's actually definitely won. I think the 5-on-5 numbers to this point, but as per usual, the Leafs have been on that other end there, where they've won the 5-on-5 numbers, but they've lost the special teams battle, and ultimately that's why they've been ousted 6 straight years. They finally are winning the special teams battle this season, and look how big of a difference it is. They're up 3-1 in this series, and they'll have 3 cracks to get through to the second round. Your second star, Dave.
I'm going to give it to Alexander Kerfoot.
I knew you were going to go there.
When the Leafs
hold on? Can we actually really quickly, before we go to Kerfoot, because you're about to give him flowers. But before you do, let's break him down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you were not happy to see Kerfoot on the ice.
I was not happy to see Kerfoot a lot of times on the ice. It's just one of those, like, you're trying to figure out what is he trying to do out there, right? Like, he's skating, he's moving around out there, but, like, he's struggling to keep the puck in the zone. He's not really generating much offensively. There's opportunities where he can lay a hit, and he lets up on the hit. Like, it's just like, what is Alexander? And we were talking about, I know we're going to discuss Michael Bunting here, and it's just almost like people were wondering who's going to come out. I was ready to, like, shove Alexander Kerfoot in a suitcase out of town, and then lo and behold, you see the shot from the point, and you see the tip go in, and it took us like we saw
There's
the
like,
goal.
who's that? Who tipped it?
And then we
Was
saw
it tipped?
And then we saw it was Kerfoot, and like the reaction that we had. I wish we had that live. Just the reaction of us realizing it was Kerfoot, and just it was like watching. Have you ever watched the Mighty Ducks movies?
Yep, of course.
And you realize Goldberg, and then Goldberg scores the game-winning goal, and like the guys are celebrating, and they're just like, Goldberg?
Goldberg? Oh, it was the fake knuckle puck.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was one of those moments where it's just like the unlikely hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
That's
was
a
like
good
the
way to
one
put
thing,
it.
The one thing the Leafs were missing. That unlikely hero. You hear about that,
And they haven't gotten that in the last few seasons, right? They haven't gotten that key goal from someone down the lineup who you're not expecting to get it. Yeah. I mean, Camp had a couple last year. Like, it's not the first time Kerfoot scored in the playoffs, but to get one in overtime is a different story. You know what I mean? Like, that's where you go from being just like a guy to being. I don't want to necessarily say that he's, folklore type player now, but like there's going to be a lot more respect on his name tomorrow than there has been in the past.
I may have thrown into the Discord chat that the Leafs won the Nazem Kadri trade with that goal.
I'll say this,
which they didn't. I'm not saying that was a joke.
There's a couple of quotes that are coming out about that overtime winner, and this is like. So Alex Kerfoot gets ragged on pretty well by the fan base.
Yep.
But you know how beloved he is in that locker room and how much Sheldon Keefe actually likes him and believes in him. He wouldn't get these opportunities if he did not believe in him. So regardless what the fan base says, like Sheldon Keefe has trust in that player. And he had a really good quote post-game when asked about how he felt about Alex Kerfoot scoring it. He said he felt at some point or another Alex Kerfoot was going to score a big goal for them. I didn't know when it was going to happen, but a guy who works that hard deserves to be rewarded. And he was rewarded tonight. Morgan Rielly also with a good comment. You just want to grab him like you're so happy for him, to contribute in that way is just crazy. It's like, Mo, you did that literally the day before.
and I remember seeing the feeling of a lot of players on the ice when Morgan Rielly scored.
Yeah.
And it was exactly the same for Kerfoot.
Yeah.
And hey, maybe this is the start of Alexander Kerfoot just being able to
Kerf season.
Yeah, it's not like he doesn't try. Like, I'm not saying the guy doesn't try. It's just the execution isn't there for him. And
he's just not as he's a guy who, when he's working hard, things go well for him because he's a smart player and, he can work hard, but he's not physically gifted and he's like the talent. He's got to work harder than most. You know what I mean? And some guys it's tough to do for 82 games. It's tough to do for a 7-game series, obviously. But, he does, I think, do a lot of things away from the puck, behind the scenes. He's a penalty killer. He's on that second unit. Like, he does do a lot for this team kind of in the background. He's not at the forefront by any means, but he certainly is an important player to this team. But the most important player to this team is the guy who collectively gets our number one star for sure. I had Morgan Rielly also as my second star, by the way, but we already talked about him as your third star. Auston Matthews tonight. Welcome to the series, Auston Matthews. I mean, again, it's not like he played poorly going into tonight's game. Like, he played good, but I thought tonight he played great. From the second period onward, at the very least. First period, I don't know if anyone played well. They're outshot 12-4. Not a whole lot was going on. But from the second period onward, Auston Matthews, and more in particular towards the end of the game in the third, put the team on his back, scored 2 massive goals to get the team back in it. 7 shots on goal tonight, 3 hits, 3 blocked shots, played 25 minutes. He was just phenomenal. That was he's never had a statement playoff performance. Is that it?
Oh, it's definitely his best playoff performance I've seen, just because it was when the team needed it, right? He's scored in games for the Leafs, but it's in games where I think the Leafs just as a team were doing well, but it was clear that they needed someone to pick them up. Ryan O'Reilly's done it. John Tavares has kind of done it. Morgan Rielly's done it. They needed Auston Matthews to have that moment for himself.
I just look around the league and I look at the superstars in today's game, right? Cale Makar, he's had those signature playoff moments. Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid did. Leon Draisaitl's obviously done that. Braden Point, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, Stamkos. Like the guys who've won have been able to have these. I know the Edmonton guys haven't won, but
Pasternak,
it's not on them. Pasta's done this in the past, but the best players in the league have those statement games where they rise and they bring their game to a whole other level in the playoffs. Matthews hasn't really done that yet. He hadn't had that signature performance where it's get on my back, boys. I'm going to lead us to victory. And tonight he finally did. And that's, I think, just such a beautiful thing if you're a Maple Leafs fan to see this guy, hitting his stride in this series, and hopefully he can continue it, man, because the Matthews we saw tonight, the dogged determination every time he hit the puck, attacking in the offensive zone, he was a dangerous man. He was a man on a mission, and it was mission accomplished by the end of the night. And, man, Game 5 can't come any sooner.
Yeah, and you just hope that Auston Matthews hasn't, you need one more. When you're looking into Game 5 and you're seeing how the Leafs going to pick up that win, Auston Matthews has got to bring that dog mentality, right?
Yeah.
We want to see, again,
He's got that dog in him. We saw it tonight.
Yes, we did.
He's got that dog in him.
We haven't really, and again, we haven't seen, when I was looking at the comments in a lot of the group chats that I had, it's about how these guys just don't have it, right? Some of these guys just don't have that it factor.
Not in the DNA.
And guess what? Auston Matthews showed it is there.
Yeah,
it's there.
And I would even say Marner still hasn't arrived to what he can be in this series, to what he can be for the Leafs throughout this playoff run. So if you're looking for a positive, it's that they're still not even firing on all cylinders.
They haven't reached their ceiling yet.
I mean, again, they're up 3-1, but they really have been outplayed in 3 of these games. I would say if you look at the full 60 minutes of these games, maybe it should be flipped, but. Again, it's that dogged determination. It's, getting the key saves at the right time from Samsonov and then getting the key goals from some key contributors, late in the game and then playing well in overtime. And next thing you know, it went from a 1-1 series when they went to Tampa and when they arrived, and now they're leaving up 3-1, taking both of those games. They went full Kawhi Leonard. They went in thinking, hey, if we could get a split. And they said, no, let's take 2.
They're starting to learn a little bit there. Make it easier on yourself. It's almost like it's almost like the Leafs are trying to say, we don't want to go back to Tampa. There's no way we want to be going back to Tampa.
No.
And now the anticipation, I can't wait to see what that arena is going to be like for Game 5. The anticipation.
Yeah.
Because remember, when they were up against the Canadiens,
no one in the building.
No one in the building.
No fans.
And they were and you know how that Game 5 ended. I don't want to relive how that series went and then how it all went downhill from there. But I just think that look, the Leafs fans came out in Tampa too. Let's not kid ourselves.
Did you see that fan at the end of the broadcast?
Oh, just loving life.
What a dude!
I wish I was.
We're gonna retweet that from our Locked On Leafs account. Go check it out because it honestly that's a dude who's been through pain. He's been a lifelong Leaf fan. He's been through so much pain, and he could taste it. He's like, it's been 20 years since we've been through to the second round of the playoffs, and he could taste it. He can't believe it. The guy had hair last time they were in the playoffs. So did you, though, Dave, I'm sure. Maybe. I don't know. You might have came out the womb without hair or fell off. For all I know. I've known you since you were 22 years old to look the same, pal.
Yeah, I haven't really changed. Yeah, that's very, very true. It is very true.
All right. Man, it was that was a fun game. That was a really, really fun game to watch. Didn't start out that way.
Nope.
But it's not how you start. It's how you finish, Dave.
Always is.
And again, it's not how you start the series. It's how you finish it. They started off so poorly in that game 1, but the way that they've been able to finish things off in games 2, 3, and 4, now's the real test, the final test. If they want to get over this hump, do they have that killer instinct in them? They got that dog in them to go out there and put them away in game 5. I don't know. But we got a couple of days before we got that game, so we'll have a couple of days to kind of let the dust settle here on game 4 before we could start teeing up game 5 tomorrow and the next day. And there's one big decision that Sheldon Keefe is going to have to make. We'll talk about it tomorrow, but it's what do they do with Michael Bunting, who's now available to you? Do you go back to Bunce? Where does he fit? Who comes out? That's a debate for tomorrow, my friend. We'll chat about that on tomorrow's show. But that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasting platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. Go ahead, leave a like on this video if you're watching on YouTube and a comment down below. Do the Leafs got that dog in them? Are they going to end this thing in 5? Let us know down below if you believe that is going to happen here come Thursday. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.